Call the meeting to order. Do roll call. Sherry.
Here.
Vicky.
Here.
Vernon. Here. Ben. Here. Time is absent, so before. Will everybody please join me for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming tonight to this beautiful new building. Afterwards, we have some refreshments, and if somebody wants some tours, please, take the tour. So it's a beautiful building. We're very proud of it, and please bear with us if we mess up a few things. I'm not even sure everybody's out here yet. All right, call to the public. Call to the public. Public comment will be allowed at the mayor's discretion. This is exclusive of items requiring a public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. As a reminder to the public and city council members alike, the city council and staff will not engage in the dialogue or debate with any speaker pertaining to any comments made. Members of the public wishing to speak must keep their comments germane or relevant to the specific item agenda before the council. Please wait and be recognized by the mayor. Remember to state your name and address for the record. If you're online and would like to participate, please type your name in the chat and wait to be recognized before you unmuting and speaking. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak on any of the agenda items tonight? Do we have anybody online, Kathy?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on. Planning Commission member appointments. I have some appointments that I'd like to make tonight. Yeah, you have those on here.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you're going to talk about it, okay?
You see it if you want, but you're doing a great job. Good evening, congratulations, being in this beautiful building. As you know, As you know, the planning commission is a 7-member board. Their terms are staggered so that we don't have a bunch of members exiting at the same time. But this term, we do have 4 positions that are open. Ms. Stacy Cock-Course, Mr. James Owen, and Ms. Janice Spillman are current members of the planning commission. They would like to remain on the planning commission. And then, Mr. Mayor, you've spoken with Mr. Mike Rowe, and he would like to join the planning commission, and it is your recommendation that he do so. Assuming these 4 positions are filled with these nominees, then their appointments will expire on May 31st, 2027. And we will not have any more vacancies unless someone were to step down until 2026.
You're completely full. Great. I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Rowe. Would you please stand, sir? Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate. Thank you. So I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Sherry, and I would approve the appointments of Ms. Stacy Cock-Course, Mr. James Owen, Ms. Janice Spillman, and Mr. Michael Rowe to the City of Basehor Planning Commission with terms expiring on May 31st, 2027.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion and second. I'll call for a vote. Ben?
Aye.
Vernon? Aye. Vicky?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Moving on to item number 2, resident concern, Susan Stotch. Maddie, would you like to say something first, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Maddie Waldeck, Deputy City Administrator. Last month, we received a visit from Ms. Susan Stotch in City Hall, raising concerns about improvements in the northern part of the community and what the city was doing to improve roads and walkability in those areas. So I had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Stotch and really appreciate her feedback. And I explained to her about the downtown corridor study that was just completed and approved. And also the paving for progress roadway improvement plan that was implemented in the extensive study that our engineers did to review the roads. And she had asked to address council, so I spoke to Mayor Drennan, and he allowed her to be on the agenda. So we're very honored to have Susan Stotch here with us tonight, excuse me. And we'd like to invite you to the podium at this time.
First, I would like to say that I appreciate the opportunity to speak at the city council meeting. And let me say that I try to choose my words carefully because I do not want this to sound like an attack, because that is not what this is at all. I have read the Basler newsletter explaining the improvements that you are making on the streets and the infrastructure. But I still have some questions, and I want to address some concerns that I have about what I would call the inequality in which the roads, the sidewalks, and the curbs are being cared for within the city of Basler. As I walk and drive around the community, for me, it is painfully obvious that some areas of town are, let me say, they appear to be ignored, while other areas receive continuous attention. And with all of the work that's going on at the present time, that inequality just seems to be glaring. And I don't want you to misunderstand me at all. I am thrilled with the facelift that Basler is receiving. But my concern is that only certain parts of the town seem to be getting this facelift. If I read the newsletter correctly, under the heading of paving for progress, you stated that this was supposed to be a 5-year plan, but because of the failed 1% citywide tax, it no longer is a 5-year plan, but now it's basically a 2-year plan. And years 3, 4, and 5 are simply in the future somewhere. There's no time frame in which those repairs will take place. And you also state that you did an assessment of each street, and some were rated, or you were going to rate some as poor and failing, and some were going to be rated as good. Now, I don't know if you've shared that information, those findings, but I did not personally find that information online anywhere. And so without having those ratings in front of me, or having access to the rubric or the criteria that you used in order to rate each one of those streets, all I can do is look around town and try to determine which ones that you would call the poor and failing ones, and the ones that you would rate as good. And simply from the outside looking in, it seems as though one of two things has happened. And that's either that you considered all of the roads within the newer housing additions in higher need of repair than the roads in the older parts of town, which would be the neighborhoods, or you simply opted to repair the newest parts of town first and then allowed the older streets to continue to be in disrepair. Because Falcon Lakes, Hickory Point, Pin Oaks, Wellington Court, and Fox Ridge, which are obviously the newer parts of town, all have received new pavement. The curbs were updated, while the oldest areas of the community, the neighborhoods, have streets that are crumbling, no curbs, and where sidewalks do exist, some, not all of them, but some are virtually unusable, and the repairs have not been done. And the places where the housing additions and the neighborhoods meet, the streets and the curbs have been repaired within the housing additions, and the streets and the neighborhoods have remained untouched. The repairs literally stop in the middle of the street. And one example is Wellington Place, which received new streets and curbs. And then you jump right across the street, 155th and Poplar, and it's literally crumbling. If you take that corner too sharp, you're literally going to fall in the guy's yard that lives there on the corner. And they stopped right at Wellington Place, and Poplar was not touched. Now, the street was repaired behind Basler Elementary School, where the children get on and off the bus, which was a great decision. But the new pavement and the curbs and the sidewalk, again, stopped right in the middle of the street, the end of the school property. And the entire street is in dire need of new pavement, as are all of the streets in that area. So it's, you have to wonder, why would you only repair half of a street and leave the rest untouched? And as I drive through town and I read the signs that the city has put up that state, we have completed this as promised. The question that continually comes to my mind is, to whom were these improvements promised? Were they promised to all of the tax-paying citizens of Basehor, or just a select chosen few? Everyone who lives in the community deserves to have the same amenities, no matter what area of town in which they live. And it's not simply the streets and the sidewalks. I was walking about a week and a half ago, and on that particular day, my route took me through the city park. And there was a crew cutting the grass. So I asked why only part of the park was being cut. Why was the entire middle section of City Park left untouched? Well, they told me that that was not part of their contract, and that that was the responsibility of the city. And that's not really the issue. The issue is that I was up there today, and that middle section has still not been cut, and it's easily 2.5 feet tall. So my following statement is going to sound like an attack. It's not, but I apologize in advance. It's going to be interesting to see how you maintain the new park. If you're only going to cut part of that, or if you're going to let some of the grass grow out of control. It's simply a guess, but I doubt that that's the way that you will maintain the park at the south side of town. The problem is that when you pay attention to only update certain parts of your community, you create a gap. And that's a gap of inequality that happens between those areas in certain parts of the community. And we're not just speaking to aesthetics, but also to the property values. And that's a gap that cannot and should not be allowed. And I have to say that I believe that it is your job as elected officials to make sure that that gap does not exist within the Basehor community. All parts should be treated the same. And I know that you all live in the community, and I know that you know what the different parts of it look like, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so I have shared a couple of pictures with you that show the difference between the streets and the sidewalks and housing additions and on the south end of town compared to the streets and the sidewalks and the neighborhoods in the north end of town, as well as the city park. The sidewalk picture that you see demonstrates how the sidewalk on 155th Street between Leavenworth Road and Poplar is virtually unusable when it snows or it rains. And even when it isn't buried underwater, it has sunk in so many different places that it's not safe for the children who have scooters or bikes. And there are many children in that area who do ride scooters, and there's a lot of young children who need to ride their bikes on the sidewalks for safety. And the sidewalks are unusable for them. Truly, they are. They have to ride on Leavenworth Road, up that little hill on Leavenworth Road, and there's no way for them to get out of traffic because, as you know, there is no shoulder. And it is not safe for those children, nor is it fair that their sidewalks are in such disrepair because they live on the north side of town. The other pictures that you have represent the neighborhood streets, the patch jobs that are falling apart in the places that need repair as well as the city park. And the new street, one of them is the new street behind the elementary school. It does look lovely, but you can see it's where they've stopped, right in the middle of the street. And the road right next to that new repair is absolutely falling apart. And instead of continuing on, they just stopped right in the middle. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and pretend that I know how to be the mayor, nor have I ever served as a city councilman. But I was the president of KEA for over 12 years, and I was the president of my homeowners association for 5. And so I do know how to treat all people with respect and dignity that they deserve, as well as I know how to do the good, right, and moral thing for all of the people, not just a select few who trusted me enough to elect me into that position. So I guess my question for each of you this evening is, when can the people who live in the oldest parts of Basehor, the ones who live in the neighborhoods, and the ones who pay the same tax as those who live in the newer parts of the community, expect to be treated equally? And when can they expect to have the same new streets as those living in the housing additions? And when can they expect to have safe, usable sidewalks for their children? Thank you.
Open it up for a discussion. I'd like to ask Jean to begin with. Do you know what she's talking about on the park, where we're not going the whole park or something, you know?
It's the center couple acres that's inside the walking trail area. And we usually mow that with the big tractor, and with all the rain we've had, we've not been able to get in there. It is scheduled to be mowed Friday.
So, council members, I'll open it up if you have any questions for Susan or, anything, what, Sherry?
One of the things I remember we had an engineer come look at all the roads. I believe we had a slideshow, which was probably a year or two ago. And we also had the budget information, and I thought we were gonna have a website where citizens could go and find out when their road was next to be worked on. Do we have all that information?
Yeah, if I could, Councilmember Sanford.
Yeah, thank you.
A couple points. The road improvement plans were discussed in the last 3 years in 9 different public meetings. Those are all available on YouTube and of course accessible to the public. The paving for progress and plan and inventory of the road is available online. If you go to the city's website and from the menu, you'll select I want to learn about city projects. And there it is, the paving for progress, and we have the roadway assessment. We have additional information that was completed by our engineers. We are also working with our vendor to get the interactive map up, but in place of that, we still have stagnant maps. It's not as interactive as we'd like it to be. But we do have that information available as well.
And then I have another question. I know I've worked with Gene before, on some road repairs that needed to happen in front of the Catholic Church on Leavenworth Road, only to find out that wasn't city, it was county. So is any of this information that's being discussed today, is it all city, or is any of this county roads?
City.
They're all city.
Yeah, all this is city, okay?
Yes, the roads that she provided pictures of and the ones that she mentioned in the presentation are city roads. Yes, ma'am.
Cause I know you mentioned, 155th on Poplar, so I'll plan to drive over there tomorrow myself and look at that, and kind of see, you know, what you had mentioned there. And, it sounds like we've got a resolution going on Friday, let's get the grass knocked down. I noticed there's a lot of that all over the city right now. So just driving here to the meeting, I was surprised at how many yards haven't been mowed yet. So, and I'll let other people ask questions, and then I've got a few more things too.
How long have you lived? How long have you lived in Baser?
I moved to Baser at the beginning of 2022, January 1st, 2022.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What you're talking about, I understand. I have looked at that myself, even before I was on the council. So I was really glad to see that there was a plan to address the streets. And my concern was exactly like yours. Why are these streets being done when I see some other streets that really need to be done? And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood was that as the company looked at the plan and advising our city, is here is your best avenue when you're starting your plan. I have seen more things happen in this city in the past couple of years than I have ever seen before. And I am very excited. So I take that deep breath and I say, good, we aren't stopping here. There's a whole lot more to do. I can tell you, I'm really excited working with our staff and knowing where our council is coming from. We aren't going to stop, but we're going to look for funding. And by golly, they brought in more than $18 million worth of funding to try to help what's going on so far. Because when I heard, here's 155th Street, but now we're gonna do 155th corridor, But I'm going, wait a minute. Why can't we add Leavenworth north? Because we need to do that. And being the staff that they are and as efficient as they are, here's the consideration, we aren't stopping here, but it has to do with getting the grants, getting the funding, and we've got an amazing team that's putting together those plans. And I guarantee you, I will be looking at that too. Because I know, I used to live in rentals. And my house, I was looking at this paper, I thought one of the houses was mine. It's like, I know what that is going on there. And I remember talking with Jean too, because I had a person that lived in Rickles that was asking me, why aren't we doing something about storm drainage here? There's so much water. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jean, but I thought you were telling me that the city tried in the Rickle area, in the Landauer area, in the Chestnut area, but it had to do with the right of way.
Correct.
And there were several people that weren't willing to give up that easement to do changes. So in some of those areas and things like that, what I said, get together with your neighborhood, come back to the city and say, this is what we want and we're going to support it. We're going to be behind you. And that gives a little more clout to it. Not that we won't try and keep going. So I would say, I know where you're coming from. Have patience. I'm gonna be working for it too.
Thank you.
We're brother. I know you come here with the best intentions. I know you don't. It's not a situation you're coming here ready to throw stuff. So I understand your position. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, but if I'm building a house, right, and you know, that the house builder's gonna put in the sidewalk. Is it my job as the owner of that home to keep up that sidewalk, or is that the city's responsibility?
I thought it was the responsibility of the homeowner to clear the sidewalk of snow. So what you're saying is that everybody anybody that has a sidewalk in front of their house, they have to get together with all of their neighbors, or that sidewalk is just gonna stay in disrepair and the kids can't use it.
So the way that it is set up that when a new development comes in, the developer is required to put the ADA ramps at the intersections. And then when a building permit is pulled, before they can reach 5 of them, they have to pour their sidewalk in front of their lot. So that's why you'll find gaps or over sidewalk in some areas.
Well, I mean, I just moved to Baser, but I'm from the area. I've lived in the Tonganoxie area for 25 years. So that sidewalk was poured by the prison.
Sidewalk was poured in 1999.
Yes.
By the inmates.
Exactly.
The property owners did not want to give right of way, so we had to stay inside the right of way area.
And so why is that, then whose responsibility would that be to fix that sidewalk? That's my question.
Should be the homeowner's responsibility.
It's not on their right of way.
Right, it's in their property.
Hmm.
We can have internal discussion.
No, that's fine. I just, like I said, you would not believe the children that have, I mean, they have no sidewalk. They have literally no sidewalk. And so we're going to argue and debate over that it's the homeowner's responsibility, and so then a child gets hit. That's a concern. I think it's a concern. But anyway, that's about it.
Yeah, the whole road, that whole thing needs to be changed because it was the previous mayor many years ago. I mean, he tried to get a sidewalk in, so like Jean said, it was the prisoner group that put it in, and my husband was going, why is this sidewalk so crazy? It was the only thing that they could do at that time. So there are a lot of things around here that need to be done. You gotta get them done.
Thank you so much. You want to get on something?
Okay, I guess the only other things I have is, first I want to say thanks for your comments. I know we're preparing to go into budget preparation, we spent about 3 months on that. So, I'm gonna give you my business card,
Okay,
and it has my phone number and my email. And if you could think about recommendations of what you might think would be things that we need to consider during budget that would assist with this. Since we do have a 5-year plan, but we're limited on the funds that we can utilize. We're seeking more grants. I know I was on that committee for the downtown corridor. I know we're just getting started in that area. We had 2 public meetings. In fact, the second meeting, I believe, was the most well-attended meeting we've had of any of these things. So that was very good. But yeah, so we'd like some information, some feedback from the citizens. I mean, that's part of our budget, the 3 months that we spend on budget, to look at, different ways. And I know when I was elected, I said I'll never raise the mill as long as I'm on the city council. So that's not an option to go out and increase the taxes on the citizens. I know I won't speak for the other people, but for myself, I'm not going to raise the mill, and I won't for any need. Because I feel like we've all got enough to pay with property taxes and insurance and inflation and fuel and groceries and et cetera. So anyway, I guess, before you leave, I'll make sure you get your business card. And if you could just reach out to me, I'd be glad to talk to you directly. So thank you.
You know, we hear about budgets, we hear about monies, and, I lived on Pinole for almost 24 years, so I do know that sidewalk, and, sometimes I take a little walking stick so I won't fall. I work a lot with funding, and staff knows that, and sometimes funding opportunities can only be extended to certain communities, certain areas. About 6, 7 years ago, I had to have a road reclassified so that we can get funding for that road. But also 155th, we had to do some real specific concentrated updates. One, as you pointed out, I used to get tired of seeing young people walking with their strollers on 155th Street.
yes.
So thanks to David Howard in 2012 saying, what are we gonna do about 155th Street? So he kind of encouraged me, initiated, you know, the work that we're doing on 155th Street. I know I didn't do it all by myself, I just know that I initiated, but we have an amazing staff here. I talk about classifications, because at the meeting I'm going to tomorrow, the Mid-America Regional Council meeting, which provided us a 7.9 million and 5.3 million for the projects that we have. I asked, can we go and do work north of 155th Leavenworth Road? I need to get that road reclassified so that Mark will be able to look at it. Using what my friend here, Sherry, said, you know, not raising the budget, you know, things of that nature. So I've been to bat for years about what's going on 155th Street and 155th Street North. In 2007 and 2008, the city had a sidewalk plan. And I don't know if that plan is still available, but you know, that would be something to maybe dust off, take another look at. I go back to the budget piece. I'm going to continue to work to get that area reclassified. I've been here long enough to where I would hear that we need to do bottlenecks, we need to build bottlenecks, we need to build. And it's like, well, what about the inner part of the city? So I did not focus on things that were outside of the core city, and I can't call that core city. So tomorrow in my meeting, I'm gonna ask Dean, I'll talk to Dean, and I'll try to see if I can get, you know, some kind of movement. It took me 12 years to be able to get the funding that was needed to be able to get the work done on 155th Street. And that is my effort to decrease our tax base. I mean, to decrease our ad valorem tax, to keep our mill levy low, because that's $12 million that we would not have had if we did not have dedicated staff, an outstanding city administrator fighting tooth and nail. Those are gonna be the same staff that I'm gonna be looking at and asking to assist me with looking at 155th Street North. Again, I have to go back and look at, how we get that role classified so that it will fall within our preview. That study that was put out in 2008 or 2006 or 2007, it was there, because it puts a sidewalk in front of my house. Okay, so now I gotta do more work. That's part of the progress of growing. So if we get that role reclassified and it becomes eligible for Mid-America Regional Council funding, then that would be one of the funding sources. I cannot speak for the city administrator, or the city staff, but that's one of the funding streams that we can use that we will be able to move forward with a project like that. I'm not saying when that's gonna happen. As I said, it took 12 years to get what we got going here. But I'm committed, I've been committed to improving the safety of our citizens here. And I think that that's just one of the approaches that I'm gonna take. I might not be successful, but this is the thing. If I don't ask, if I don't push, if I don't do what you're doing tonight, then it just kind of falls by the wayside. We don't want that to happen. So yeah, I do use a little stick when I'm walking on that street up there. So again, thank you so much. I did not see that as being an attack. I still saw it clearly as being something that is worthy of looking at. And people know that I tend to focus on what's going on in the inner part of the city more than I do in the outer part. Because the outer part, with the new developments, they're being taken care of. But it's these parts. So talking about areas that were neglected, 155th Street for years. I remember in 2007, when they built that brand new section in front of the old city hall. And I said, it's 2 blocks, how can they even run it all the way out? And it was pertaining to a number of different things, but funding. So we are working on the inner part of the city, as well as the other parts of the city. But I just tend to be more partial toward the areas that I know I have to get out and walk in, the areas that I have to get out and drive in. And I know that ditch that you're talking about. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And I don't have my card with me. I would give it to you, but yeah, I'll do what I can. And the staff knows that if I put my mind to something, that's it might possibly happen.
Thank you.
Manny, did you have anything you wanted to finish up with?
No, just from a staff perspective, the next steps in managing the paving for progress is working with the city council and the city council setting the vision for the budget. And then we will work to establish the recommendations along with our engineer for the roadway improvements for 2025. Thank you.
Dean, did you have anything? No. Okay, good. Do you have anything else, Sam?
I do not. Thank you so much for your time.
You're quite welcome. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, Bachelor Linwood Students Innovation Academy presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. With us tonight, we have 3 students from our Innovation Academy. We have Benjamin Villanueva, we have Adeline Elliott, and Zoe Falgren. And these students have been working with us over this semester, and we worked with 2 other students, Chloe and Donalo, in the previous semester on their government credit for the Innovation Academy. And so they had to do a lot of really fun and interesting things to learn about not only local government, meeting with the city administrator, Leslie Rigola, and I, learning about the different roles within the city. They also met with our state representative to learn about information at the state level. They met with the court clerk to learn about the court proceedings, and they've just really been a delight to work with. And as with all Innovation Academy credits, they have a capstone project at the end of the semester where they have a show at their Innovation Academy Showcase, which is actually this Friday, right? Friday at the high school. And their project over this year was to establish a list of legislative priorities for the city of Basehor. So before I dive into those legislative priorities, I'd like to invite our students to the podium to introduce themselves and also just talk a little bit about the process of working with the city and what they think part of this project was.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Villanueva. I really appreciate you guys coming out and reaching out, and it's been a wonderful experience working with you guys and working with the city. It's been so much fun. I enjoy it a lot more than just sitting in class and just kind of listening to lectures all day. So thank you, and I appreciate it so much.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, I'm Madeline Elliott, and thank you guys so much for all of this. It's been such a great opportunity. Had so much fun getting to like learn about everything throughout Baser and getting to like work with the legislative priorities and just getting to meet all of you guys and work with all of you guys. So thank you. And I'm Zoe Fogren, and I've been in Innovation Academy for a few years now. So I've worked with the city on multiple occasions on different projects, and it's always a really good experience. And it's really nice, you know, for the out of class aspect. And yeah, just thank you guys so much for working with IAA so much.
Quite welcome, and we'll see if we can get you out of more class. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. We'll take some pictures after the presentation.
Okay.
So just to review the legislative priorities and the thought behind the document that's in your packet for consideration is, you know, over the last year, the city has really taken a really great step forward in being more active in what is happening at the state level. And we really thought that it would be beneficial to develop a list of priorities that we could send to the elected officials at the state level so that they could have in one document in one place what the city of Baser prioritizes from a legislative perspective. And so some of the work that these students have done is really incredible. They surveyed our sitting governing body, they read other surrounding areas, what their priority lists look like. They met with our state representative, and we've worked together to develop the document that is in your packet for consideration. So Kathy, if we could go to page 10, I believe. So we do have some really great introductory information so that when we send this information out, and the reason that we want to have a comprehensive document like this is when we want to communicate with those state officials, we want our priorities to be stated very clearly in one place. And we can send that to all of the representatives and senators at the state level at the beginning of each session. We can also review this at the governing body's discretion as many times during the year as we need to. If there are things that come up in session that we don't think are covered by these categories, we'd be happy to review and update it at the governing body's direction. So on the screen, this is the legislative priorities. First is that the city of Baser supports legislative funding dedicated to public safety. That's for police, fire, EMS, for safety equipment, training, any sort of funding that is available. The city of Baser supports funding being allocated at the state level for those efforts. Second is the city of Baser supports maintaining home rule authority. And just a summary of home rule is that the local elected officials have the control to decide certain things at the local level for their community that they serve, that the state doesn't have the right to come in and determine certain matters, that is truly the local elected officials' purview to control. And so the city of Baser, for this document, supports maintaining home rule authority. Next is the city of Baser supports legislative funding for public amenities, such as parks, community centers, anything that would improve quality of life. Where there would be funding available for those amenities, the city of Baser would support that legislation. Next is the city of Baser would support property tax relief by fixing the property tax calculation formula. A great example, and we spent a lot of time during the budget speaking about the antiquated property tax calculation formula and how it relies heavily on the market to determine the value of a property and how that is a burden on homeowners and property owners in the community. And so there is a piece of legislation out there that I know that we've discussed anecdotally, which would cap the increase of property valuations at 4%. And I know that we've had discussions about the possibility of supporting that. And I think if you approve this document that's before you, this would easily translate to supporting that piece of legislation that would eventually go to the voters to determine whether or not they want that property tax cap at 4%, which I would say would probably pass with flying colors. So that's that piece. Fifth is legislative funding for infrastructure, so roadways, sanitary sewer, anything that would help with infrastructure costs. The city of Basehor would support that funding. And then lastly, preventing unfunded mandates. And an unfunded mandate is when the state puts in a piece of legislation that requires the local cities or counties to do something, perform some task. Maybe that's an additional person is needed, maybe that's additional mailings that are required, and they make those mandates, but they don't add any additional funding to be able to do those functions. And so the local taxpayer has that burden of funding that. And so the city of Basehor, for this document, would not support anything that had an unfunded mandate to the city of Basehor. So this is the first draft. I know that the students have worked really hard with myself and with Leslie Riverola, our city administrator, on developing this document. And we'd be happy to receive your feedback. And if the feedback is something that we can receive tonight, we'd be happy to, if you would consider a motion accepting these legislative priorities. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for questions here.
Okay, open up for discussion. Nikki, you have anything?
Thank you. I think the summary looks very good, and I agree with you. You need the clout, you need it outlined, and it's a reference, and it makes it easier for us, it makes it easier for them. And thank you for being a part of it and helping. And I love all the internships and integrated learning that's going on now. When you come up with pieces like that, it shows real world learning is the best way. Thank you.
Posting out of class.
What I say, the end result is good.
Ben?
I just want to say thank you. You guys did a great job, looking over this. This is wonderful. It gives us, our city staff, something to go along with, and hopefully something for us to approve. Thank you guys. Great job.
Sherry?
I remember when the survey was sent around for us to work on, and first off, the survey was very good. You guys pulled up some great questions. I know that points to some time and research. And then, this is fantastic. I mean, this looks really good. A lot of the stuff that's on here are things that I feel very, passionate about. And so, I like what you guys have done. So thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for your hard work on this. It's great.
Vernon?
I retired from the Department of Justice. We used to have to testify and present information to various governing bodies. And one thing that the city has always lacked, and I know I've spoken about it before, at least 4 or 5 years ago, was to have legislative priorities for legislative docket. Thank you. Pushing us in that direction. I know you couldn't do it all by yourself. But without the support of the city administrator and the staff, we wouldn't be at where we're at. So you guys saved me a whole lot of work by doing this. Now we have something on the docket. Now we have something on the plate. Now we have something we can move forward with. Thank you again so much.
Anything else, man?
No, sir, we appreciate the feedback, and I believe there's a recommended motion in the packet, if it's the council's prerogative.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the presented legislative priorities for 2024 to back received the government body.
Have a motion to have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second, I'll call for a vote. Vicky,
Aye.
Vernon,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
passes 4-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it, all your hard work.
Mayor, if it's appropriate at this time, sir, we'd like to invite the students to take a picture with the mayor and city council, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You want us to come down there? You want to do it up here?
Let's do it up there, if that's okay.
Come on over here in the middle, guys. Let me get 2 chairs out of the way.
Please. This is gonna be a great picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Moving on to item number 4, city code updates as recommended by ONCO.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. At our previous meeting on April 24th, you all considered 3 recommended changes or updates to our city code as proposed by Ed Code. And we reviewed those in some detail at the last meeting. The ordinances before you tonight capture those proposed changes, and I'll just quickly review what they are. Ordinance 915 relates to a building official's right of entry into property. Again, it distinguishes between when a property owner is present versus not present. This second ordinance is ordinance 916, which relates to adopting the most recent version of the Code of Procedure for Effective Meetings. That's the 2017 edition. I did contact the League of Kansas Municipalities and asked how many cities in Kansas have adopted that code, and they couldn't provide an answer because there are some cities that have previously purchased it but didn't adopt it. Some cities are on a much older version, so they don't really have updated information, but anecdotally, there are several other communities that have adopted it. I also asked what the substantive changes from the 2006 version versus 2017 version are, because in a review of it is kind of difficult to see what the changes are. And I was advised, and it checks out, that really the only substantive change was language about having the motion to recess into executive session because the state law changed since 2006 on that. So otherwise, the rules are the same in both code books. And then the final ordinance is ordinance 917, and that relates to the general definition section, moving some terms to a new section in the code that has been created under the proposed ordinance that puts certain terms there that make more sense about how to, construct how the terms are written. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but otherwise, staff would recommend adoption of those 3 ordinances.
Anybody have any questions? It's from you, Vernon. Sharon. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you need a motion for each one separately or?
No, not separately. There's a recommended motion
Okay,
on the agenda or on the cover sheet.
I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Sharon. And I would move to adopt ordinance 915 pertaining to the right of entry. Ordinance 916 pertaining to the Code of Procedure for Kansas cities. And ordinance 917 pertaining to the general definition.
Have a motion, a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Sherry.
Aye.
Vicky.
Aye.
Vernon. Ben.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Move on to item number 5, resolution 2024-04 relating to eminent domain.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in regards to the 158th Street Improvements Project. We continue to negotiate with property owners. As a reminder, we have 11 easements to require, and we've been able to successfully obtain voluntarily 7 of them. We continue to negotiate over the 4 other easements, but this is just the first step in the eminent domain process. And Maria Garcia, our city attorney, will discuss that process more in depth. But again, I just want to reiterate the city's commitment to voluntary acquisition. Eminent domain is not something that we take lightly, and so we continue to work with these property owners and will up until the point that we have a court hearing.
So, thank you, Mayor. So eminent domain, otherwise referred to as condemnation, is authority that's provided by state law that allows governments like cities in Kansas to take private property so long as the owner of that property is compensated accordingly for the taking. There are a number of steps that happen during the condemnation proceeding. The first of which is what is before you all tonight, and that starts with a resolution. That resolution must declare that it's necessary to use the city's condemnation powers for a specific purpose and ordering a survey to be completed on the land to be condemned. Again, that's step 1. Step 2 is if the resolution is adopted by the governing body, staff would return with an ordinance for your consideration that again proposes or declares the necessity of taking that property and authorizes staff to proceed with it and authorizes the taking of the property. That is really where the city council's involvement ends, just those 2 steps, the resolution and the ordinance. Because after the ordinance is adopted, that allows staff to file a petition in Leavenworth District Court to go through the court proceedings in front of the judge to finalize the condemnation proceedings. It's estimated that from start to finish, a condemnation proceeding takes between 90 and 120 days. And really, that's all there is to it for the resolution discussion for tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
Open up for discussion again. Any questions, Brett? Sherry?
Okay, so this is for the 8th Street and Mount Pearl,
Yes.
and this is for correcting road improvement. Is there any sidewalk, trail, or any like culvert, anything?
Yeah, yes, Councilmember Stanford read my mind. It basically takes at 155th in parallel and continues those improvements that we have planned on 155th. And continues it from on parallel from 155th to 159th. And then at 158th in parallel back south to Garden Parkway. And we're already constructing a 10-foot wide multi-use path on one side as part of the Metro Green Trail project. This project includes a 5-foot wide sidewalk on the opposite side to mirror what we're doing on 155th Street. And we received $5.2 million in grant awards for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add really quickly, Maddie had an excellent description of the project, but it is staff's opinion that the taking of those properties that are listed in the exhibits attached to the resolution, those are necessary for the successful completion of the project.
Very good.
Right. Thank you.
I appreciate all the hard work that's going on to work with the property owners to get this done.
Very much. Call for motion.
Chair, we adopt resolution 2024-04, finding it in the public interest to appropriate through the exercise of eminent domain certain interests in real property, including temporary construction easements for use by the city of Pacer, Kansas, for the purpose of rehabilitating, reconstructing, and modernizing segments of 158th Street parallel road, rotating within the city of Pacer, Kansas on certain tracts of property identified in the attached exhibits.
And a motion, do I hear a second?
And second,
A motion and a second, I'll call for a vote. Ben.
Aye.
Vernon. Aye. Vicky.
aye.
Sherry. Passes for all. Is there a need for an executive session tonight?
There is none.
We want to use our new room.
There'll be plenty of opportunities.
Okay, I call for an adjournment of the regular meeting.
Mayor, this is Sherry. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. We'll go right on into the work session. Item number one, dog park discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. With us tonight, we have two members, one member of our community and one member of our team. We have Gina Foster, who is with the Fulton Foster Foundation. Then we have Michelle Cooper. She is our contracted grant writer who assists us with grants and other projects. And I'll let Gina introduce herself and talk more about the foundation, but the city was approached about a possible project, a dog park in the community. And we met with Gina and we've met with Michelle and they put together a proposal. And really the goal tonight is to get direction from this governing body about whether or not to move forward with this proposal. And we just really genuinely appreciate the opportunity to receive that feedback. So at this point, I'd like to invite Gina Foster to the podium and just thank her for all of her work. And it's been an honor to work with you and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gina Foster. I am here representing the Fulton Foster and My Story is an Overget Foundation. I really appreciate this opportunity of discussing the dog park proposal to all of you tonight. The foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit that was formed after the unexpected loss of our youngest son, Fulton, to suicide on June 18, 2018. He was 19 years old. He graduated from Bates Level High School in 2017. He had never been diagnosed with mental illness, nor did he show any signs and symptoms. My immediate thought was, after this happened, if this can happen to Fulton, it can happen to anybody. And that's why I did not want to try to hide what happened. After his death, we realized how prevalent mental illness and suicide is in our society. It never occurred to me, like I said, to try to hide the circumstances because I wanted others to know this could happen to anyone, even someone that we think are okay. Fulton was always smiling, always laughing. His brother got a tattoo that said he laughed the loudest you would know. And that's very descriptive. That was Fulton. Therefore, the foundation was formed. One, to bring awareness about mental illness and suicide prevention. To bring awareness that suicide is not always the result of mental illness. It can be a response of an event or events going on in someone's lives that overwhelms them in a vulnerable moment, which is what I think happened to Fulton. That's why I wanted to really express how important it is and how that people realize that they need to be having discussions and bringing awareness about mental health, even when you don't think that occurs, that's not, that's not my child. Well, it happened to my child, and I still wake up every day wondering how did this happen. Furthermore, with the foundation, we also want to promote mental wellness and resilience. Our mental health is just as important as our physical health. We want others to know that they are not alone. It's okay to reach out and speak up. There is hope. After his death, so many people came to me in our community that I was shocked by the people that had said they had either themselves or a family member had attempted suicide or had struggled with mental health, and they were embarrassed. They didn't want to talk about it because there's a stigma. I mean, this was even more prominent citizens, teachers that I had known all my, kids growing up, and I was shocked. The COVID pandemic led to increased anxiety, depression, and impaired coping skills for many because of the social distancing and isolation. Even now, the lack of social interaction since the pandemic has passed has made it more challenging to cope with life stressors. Now more than ever, people need human connection and social interaction other than social media. A lot of people, social media paints the perfect life of somebody. even though that person may be struggling. And this can increase their own anxiety and depression because in reality, they know that's not them. It also can affect others looking at that person's post that makes them have lower self-esteem because they look at this person and think, wow, what a great life this person has. But in reality, our lives are not like a Leave It to Beaver episode. We all struggle at some point in our lives. This is why we need to learn more coping skills to build resilience so we can work through life stressors. As the foundation has grown, we began looking at ways to make a larger impact on our community by promoting fitness of body, mind, and spirit to individuals and families of all ages. I thought of things that have helped me through the darkest moments in my life, and it kept coming back to me how my dogs, my furry friends, my furry kids. I began taking my dogs to dog parks, but I had to travel to other communities to take them. But it was enlightening to see how many people frequented these parks and to see the joy on people's faces and to see, and even the dogs, how happy they were to be out, have a place to run free and expend their energy. I always thought Basehor needed one. So when I began thinking of ways to make a positive impact that would benefit so many, the dog park project was a no-brainer. I knew that it would be a perfect opportunity to build a healthier community, not only for people, but for our furry friends as well. The human-animal bond has been proven to decrease anxiety and depression. It would also build social ties and friendships, promoting social interaction if we had a dog park. Which this has been lacking, this interaction since the pandemic. It would give people a reason to get up, get dressed, get out of their houses and outside, enjoy nature, meet people. Be able to be a resource to new dog owners, pet owners coming to the park. Even as I went to some other communities and interviewed some people why they like the dog parks, and most of the people had dogs, and one lady didn't even have a dog. And I asked her, you know, I thought maybe her dog was running around somewhere. And she said, no, I come here every, I think it was a Tuesday. She says, and I meet such and such people. And she is not able to have her own pet, but she goes and visits her new friends and fur friends. So, the dog park's also a great place for people to play with their dog and get exercise. A lot of people don't have the yards big enough to fully interact and exercise their dog. If they had a place to go, this would improve their relationship with their pet and let the dog expend its energy, leading to a better bond that might otherwise not occur and possibly lead owners placing their dog up for adoption. As the plan started forming in my mind, I thought the Basehor City Park has a vacant area that would be perfect and would help revitalize that park by adding another attraction. My boys spent many hours playing at that park when they were younger. I couldn't think of a more fitting place. When I started researching about dog park startups, I discovered that there are grants available for dog parks for 501c3 nonprofit organizations, which I wholeheartedly believe in this project. I believe that we can build a place that will positively impact so many people in our community, a place that we can be proud of. I approached the city of Basehor with the park project because I feel this would be a great opportunity to improve that area at the Basehor City Park and strengthen our community in fitness, mind, body, and spirit. And since the foundation is a nonprofit, it is eligible to apply for grants that the city is not able to. That would help fund the project in addition to donations and fundraising. A park support advisory committee would help aid the city in the planning, development, maintenance, and funding for the park. I could foresee many events in the future that would promote mental health, provide education about responsible dog ownership and park use. I also foresee opportunities to include local businesses at events that would strengthen our community connection and aid the sustainability of the park. And I will now turn it over. Do you have any questions for me right now, or would you like to listen to Michelle first?
Why don't we, listen to Michelle first, and then with you both up here. First off, we're sorry for the loss.
Thank you.
So,
Hey, I'm Michelle Cooper, and I've been invited to work on a project with, Leslie, Maddie, and Gina. I was very excited that you were ready to hear our proposal this evening, and we're pretty excited to present it to you as well. I want to thank Gina for going through introducing the foundation, its origin story, what it means to her, and what its founding purposes are, and how it can be a potential partner with the city. From what I've seen of the city parks, this would truly be a pursuit of excellence in just creating an additional option for park users, because it's a whole nother area of recreation that's not addressed within the city yet. The three basic objectives are: one, just to take the unprogrammed park space and turn it into a dog park space. One enhancement of doing that is that it actually reduces the likelihood of dogs interfering in other park spaces, and it removes the hindrance of dogs from people who maybe do not like dogs or do not understand dogs. And so with them having a dedicated play space, they are where they're supposed to be. You'll find fewer dogs at large on the street. It takes care of a lot of problems just on its own, just with the way that it's designed. The park space does have a specific design, meaning two sides, a double gated entrance, and a lot of those things are for safety reasons, as were articulated in their proposal. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about objectives 2 and 3, because they kind of coexist together really wonderfully, in that it's increasing education and awareness, not just about pet care, dog parks, and things like that, but it does elevate the opportunity to educate the community about how to be healthier body, mind, and spirit. Having these annual events where you address those specific issues and invite other vendors, it's an opportunity to raise money to fund the park, to get the information out there, to partner with other organizations like the University of Kansas Health Systems, Mental Health Core Unit, or the community mental health centers. A lot of them come with specific toolkits that they have, outreach services that come out, and they'll help partner for events like that to help spread awareness, provide intervention tools, prevention tools, and things like that that can be incorporated into the space. The same thing with park rules, as you know, are very important. There's got to be rules for everything. The average person is going to have to hear those rules, see those rules, visualize those rules at least 7 times before they truly understand them. There may be people who don't understand why it's important to pick up pet waste. You know, when you're talking about runoff and how that could affect the city's water system, there's a reason why that's one of the premier rules on the recommended dog park rule list. There's also a rule, for instance, that says, you know, no puppies under 4 months of age. Not everyone may understand why that is. You know, a puppy at that age is not fully vaccinated. It could be exposed to diseases like coccidia or giardia or other things in a park. And that's why that rule exists. Also, one of the #1 rules is notifying dog owner liability or assumption of risk at the very top of the park rules. And those are just some of the main, most important ones. But having the annual events helps educate more about those rules. The park kiosks, special brochures. The park users group is extremely important in this respect, because they become the self-monitoring park monitors, because they're a lot of times the ones who use the park the most. And in the other 2 park projects that I've worked on, they literally will talk to other dog owners while they're out using the park. And if they see someone not pick up, they're actively there. Here, I have an extra bag in my pocket, and encourage them to pick up. And people kind of learn, well, this is kind of the rule. We don't want to offend. We want to keep the aesthetic of this place beautiful and clean and not cause any problems. And so that is almost a self-monitoring problem that takes care of itself. One of the side benefits of the dog park, and one of the other projects that I worked on, was it practically eliminated crime in this particular park. It used to be a place where there was a lot of loitering, skipping school, drug use, and things like that. And when we went in and built the park, it completely eliminated all of those problems in that particular park area. Again, it helps with public safety in regard to dogs at large. The big thing is funding the project. And that's one of the exciting things about getting to partner with a 501c3 is because a lot of doors get open for us that a municipality could not access specific grant funding. And so pending interest and moving forward, we do have a plan to survey the surrounding neighborhood to get some additional input. We want to invite those questions that can head off problems in the beginning rather than have the problem and have to address it on the back end. In regards to the total budget, we would anticipate that that would be revised as we work forward, because once we have full site rendering and actual measurements, that may adjust some of those quoted prices within that component when it comes to fencing, trenching, or concrete. Different things may be a little different because I was the one who took those measurements. So with a little tool I borrowed from a construction company. So I estimated based on that walkabout with that. So the good news is we've already identified 2 grants that have submission windows that open in July and submit in September of this year. One is a state organization and one is the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. And they did email back saying that, yes, we would be very excited to review your proposal if approved to move forward. So, and those are just the first 2 we found. And so we know that there are more opportunities there. Another important component of funding it is a crowdfunding portal. And the nice thing about that is once that page is built, it can be combined on the city webpage, city social media, on foundation social media, foundation website, and we can have traffic driven to that with different levels of donorship. One popular thing in another dog park that I worked on was a founding members club. So people who jumped in the beginning and they donated at a certain level, they got to become charter founder members, and that kind of really hit some hot buttons for some specific donors. There's also the business sponsorships for park amenities. A lot of things in the budget, we fully anticipate being able to be covered with business sponsorships just through networking connections and other items of that respect. And then there is an Inscribed Bridge program. Oops. I wanted them to be able to see what that might look like. This is a sample size. They have different, y'all. It's a little heavy. At the double gated entrance, once we do the site rendering, there's an opportunity to build a landscaping component to this. And this is also a sales fundraising mechanism that can give businesses the opportunity to advertise and put their logo on bricks of various sizes, depending on what design we come up with for that walkway going into the double gated entrance to the park. And it serves a dual purpose, not just of raising money, people being able to buy those bricks to have inscribed for friends, family members, or even for their favorite pet that they have lost. But it's also a landscaping tool, and it helps with mud management and some things like that, because those were some things that we learned the hard way on the first dog park project that I ever worked on. Is you needed to take your mud boots until we got improvements made, because we didn't anticipate some of the wear and tear in the park in the high traffic areas. But the brick program has been successful with some other projects that I worked on. And so I wanted to get a sample for you to be able to see that. Another fundraising mechanism is dedicated spring and fall events. One is to keep the park foremost in the community's mind, but to serve that dual purpose of hitting those healthier community standards. The spring event would partner with the Leavenworth County Humane Society to promote dog adoption and being fit with your pet, canine fitness and human fitness. And I think, as Gina mentioned during COVID, that affected all of our fitness levels, not just mentally, but physically. So that's a great opportunity to build a festival around that, either with a run, walk, registration, vendor booths, and to create a real festival environment, and maybe even with, food trucks, which are a lot of fun. The fall event could correspond with national events that are about mental wellness. There's several organizations, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that's one of the ones that provides those outreach toolkits. You don't even have to create graphics. They provide everything for you with the ability to customize that to your event. And that really gives you resources to share at a fun event like mental health movie night at the dog park. Your dog gets to come, you put up the big screen, and it just becomes just a wonderful social experience. But at the same time, our partners, the community health centers, the University of Kansas Health Center Mental Care Unit, they can have booths there too, where they can talk about screening or invite people to come over and talk. And it opens up those prevention mechanisms that can possibly save a life in the future. Social media is a big one. The other dog parks that I've worked on, we ended up listing the website for them on a lot of travel websites, RVers, campers. You'd be surprised how far off 70 they would come to a dog park that they read about, because these people travel with their dogs. And they will spend money here if they come here to use the dog park. Anyway, that's just a little bit about recapping some of what was in the proposal. We think it's just a great opportunity to partner, just really elevate and extend resources to build something really great and provide some teachable moments for people in the community on health and wellness. And I may have some good muscle memory on previous projects, because I know you've probably got some technical questions for us too on concerns or positive, negative feedback.
I'll start with the concern. What about insurance? Does the city have to carry insurance for that?
I don't believe there is a specific insurance policy that you carry. Your general liability should cover that with your other parks.
Is that something, if somebody gets bit out there or attacked by a dog?
Kansas statutes quote that assumption of risk is on the dog owner. And that is why that's one of the very primary rules that gets listed at the top, because in Kansas, the state statute is the liability resides with the dog owner. Any damages caused, anything, it's the dog owner who's liable.
But can the city still get sued over it though?
I think in this day and age, anybody can get sued over about anything. And so I can't say that that possibility is not there. And also, some of this research I forwarded on, but we would need to probably also take a close look at Baser's specific animal control laws on what happens with animal at large dog bites. How are those handled with quarantine and different things like that? But in all the dog parks I've worked on, we have not had a lawsuit in that respect, but you can never say never.
Right.
I spoke to Brian Bailey, the Leavenworth Park Superintendent, regarding the Wagon Tails Dog Park. He said that there's never been any lawsuits that they've had since it's open. And they have a lot of people that come to that park. And he also said that it's pretty much self-governed. The city pretty much doesn't have to do much. They don't send people out to clean up the waste, except just to gather the trash. And he said the biggest issue is that sometimes is what defines a large versus small dog. But if we have that spelled out with the weight limit and stuff, that could take care of that. He said they just have their regulations, rules and regulations on the website and signage out all over the park stating and that it's an assumption of risk. And I also spoke to the Mayor of Bonner about the one in Bonner Springs, which is a smaller, very small dog park, but they have not had any lawsuits either. So
Who takes care of the weed eating around the fence? And that's gonna be the city's responsibility?
That is the partnership that was made on the two dog parks I worked on previously, and that was Ottawa and Emporia. That was part of what they kind of incorporated into they're already mowing that area. So the only difference is there's now gonna be fencing and some additional things in the park. And so that's traditionally the way that has worked in the past.
Anybody, any council members have any questions?
Yeah, how big is this park?
It's minimum of 1 acre, and the measurements, have to give you the measurements because I'm not super good with that. Yeah.
I mean, there's some kind of idea.
but it's at least 1 acre.
We recommend what?
We walked out that space, you know, the walking trail that goes around it. I had heard that they're gonna be replacing that with something new. So basically what I did when I measured is I came inside that quite a ways to account for the construction of that and basically walked it out all the way to the end into kind of a big square. And that was kind of how we came up with the exterior component of that. The division of that, it would not be an equal half and half for the divisional fencing for large dog versus small dog. The small dog side would be closer to the basketball court and the shelter house area. And then the large dog side would be on that far side, away from that. And usually the large dog side is gonna be the larger fenced in space, and the smaller dog side will be a little less square footage on that side, just because their exercise needs are different.
Okay, that walking trail area that I'm looking at here is approximately 11 acres. How much of that do you think?
We started, you know where the basketball court is there? We came in from that quite a few feet, and we came inside the walking trail quite a bit. So we tried to go as far up to come to where fencing would be going straight across at the top end and following that straight line down each side, but we tried to have it far enough away from the basketball area so that it wouldn't be right on that area. So there'd be a division of activities within those spaces.
So essentially, you're saying more than acres.
Well, most of that inside area, inside the walking trail, yeah, we just tried to buffer, have a lot of buffer space in between the existing recreational basketball court there.
Yeah, in that use area, gentleman field, there's plus or minus 2 acres available in that area.
In this area here.
Yeah, north.
Yeah.
That's 2 acres.
Yes, so just north of the youth basketball goal, there's about a 25-foot separation, and we have some trees planted. Just north of that to the north trail, inside that radius is about a plus or minus 2 acre.
So still, in essence, it's gonna take the whole area. No, perpetuity.
Well, no, I mean, the whole bottom part of the area, this photo that's on page 25 of the proposal, that whole bottom area, see where number 31 is? That whole area down, we're not using. The fencing kind of starts above that, and we work up and over into a rectangular.
Go from that 31 all the way up, looking at this picture, all the way to the top of the picture.
Yeah, all the way to the trail, and we tried to buffer, knowing that there was gonna be trail construction coming, so that we were far enough away from that, measuring the distance. And this is also where the professional site rendering would help us a lot more with that space planning. But that was something we only wanted to tackle pending interest, so.
So I go back to my initial point, essentially it's gonna take.
Yes.
Okay, all right. The advisory committee, this, the part, the court advisory committee will, the foundation representative. We'll go down and talk about professional in the advisory capacity, such as a local veterinarian and city officials.
That was, if there's interest from city officials, we would love to have someone that has an interest in the park project and would want to participate actively, and so we wanted to have that option in there. And we do already have a local veterinarian that is interested in being a participative partner in an advisory aspect, and some of their techs in an actual park users group aspect.
And when can you start accepting donations for the bricks?
That we have to build the site. The company that we did the research with, they actually will build a sales site for us at no charge to process this. And it would probably come a little ways down the road, because we have to kind of have several other ducks in the row first.
Once you get those ducks in the row, let me know. So I wanna.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know, there's a lot of dog parks all across the state. I've been to many of them, I know like Coventry Park and, just different locations. So I know some of the rules are that animals are supposed to be obviously vaccinated and have their city tag. Even though I would assume spay neuter, or if not, they shouldn't be there. You know, just kind of have a concern, the dog, dog bites or, inappropriate behavior. But I know talking to people within the city of Basehor, I've heard various times, even I think some of our young people at the high school have said this is something they really want. So I do see it as an amenity that would be really nice to have. So, it is something I'm personally interested in. So, and I also would be interested in a break in memory of my dog who just passed.
Mentioning the rules again, that is part of the reason for quite a few of the rules on there is, and in each of the park openings that I participated in, they had major ribbon cuttings with an educational component where everyone got a copy of the rules. Back in 2005, it actually stopped traffic on 24th Street in Quarry because back then no one had really heard about dog parks. And so we had a lot of pull-ins and attendance of that. But the ribbon cutting is a great time to talk about the park rules and that it is for people's safety and their dog safety.
I want to say how strong you are. And my heart goes out to you. And congratulations for taking all of that and translating it into something that goes forward. That's amazing. And that does take a lot of strength. I am totally for the concept. My elementary school, I worked with a counselor and we did the first counseling dog in Kansas at our elementary school. It makes a tremendous difference, yes, the connection with the animals. The advisory group that you're talking about, wonderful. Keeping that connection. I think you've got a whole lot of things outlined here, and that's great. My big concern is the funding. And I know you've got about 10% of it right now. So are you looking to come back to us after some of these grants, some of these other fundraising?
What the goal is with the grant applications is, I believe, we have to have like an initial approval to work towards those, to apply for those. And the two that open in July, one of them is an amount of $15,000 on one of them. The land and water conservation grant, what was the max amount we can apply for on that one again?
Oh, gosh, I think it's, it's significant.
That's what I
It's
thought.
like, I think above 100 grand.
Yeah. So those two alone, if, because of course the grant process is competitive, but I feel like it's a great project and it has a lot of added benefits for the community, in addition to, improving the park space. Just with those two grants, and it's amazing what a personal fundraising campaign can do, what the crowdfunding page can do, what the Inscribe program can do. In Emporia, we funded the entire thing on just donations.
That would be wonderful.
So once we would have the go ahead and could open it up and advertise it and try to get funding, and information out on the social media for the foundation. We've had such a great response over the years with our community helping build the foundation. And that's why we're moving on to a bigger project. We currently give like two $1,000 scholarships for to seniors for trade school. And then this year we also did a $500 one for a junior that's in trade school. They're going to be, and then continuing it their senior year. I foresee even approaching the school and speaking to them about some of the classes, maybe even participating and building some of the ramps, or or even finding local businesses that are in the trades that would be willing to donate partial or work, or you know, and even if there's kids that are in those trades that could come and just work alongside somebody too, that I'm really big on this being kind of a grassroots thing, really pulling people from the community, not draining from the city to try to do it. So,
Well, and that was my question. From what I'm hearing, it's not that you're coming to the city and asking for money. You're asking to move forward with this and then coming back with a plan as it goes along. Right? And my husband and I are two people that walk the dog park without having a dog with us, so yes. Awesome.
Well, you guys are touching on two things that are very, very near to my heart. Sure, mental health first and foremost, and second, which is my dog, I love my dog to death. So absolutely all in, and I'm glad Vicky went first, because that was gonna be kind of my question is, what do you come to,
Right,
looking for $90,000? For support. I'm all in on support. I think the budgetary aspect is where it's kind of holding back. So as I think through this, a couple different things. I know you've told these in the past. Are we gonna get concerns from the residents off to the right over here in regards to noise pollution?
That was one of the things that we were going to tackle, pending this meeting, is the marketing department has put together some door hangers, and there's gonna be a social link that's identified just to their address to tap them for concerns, questions, and find out how they feel about that. One of the reasons that we did not include, for instance, lighting in the budget is because that would kind of infringe on their evening time space to have some big bright light out there in the park just for extended park use hours reflecting into their yards. And so that's one reason, was thinking in advance about that. And surprisingly, the noise pollution is not terrible bad, and you'll find that the higher traffic times are usually earlier in the morning, like when people are getting ready for work. There'll be people that will be trafficking the park between 7 and 9. You're gonna find there's a heavier traffic at noon, and then the heavier traffic picks up at like between 3:30 and 8 at night. Park kind of tend to be the times when it's the busiest. Now, in both the Ottawa and the Emporia parks, neither one of those were directly abutting a residential area. And so that's the big reason why we want to survey that area and make sure that a high percentage of them are excited about the project, and hopefully every single one of them has dogs. So this would give them an extended play space.
I love your thought process in regards to, like a dog walk, like having like a fundraiser as a dog walk. Have you thought about it all?
we do a golf tournament for the foundation. This will be our third annual one at Lestrade. We've already sold out all 36 teams like 2 months ago, and it's in August.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of big companies that have been on board with us throughout all 3 years. Lockton, Brown and Writing, P1 Group, Miles Excavating, Johnson County Heating and Cooling. We have a lot of big companies that are very supportive. Jake Dunn. So I'm hoping that they would also extend that.
I don't think I have anything else, but I think that's unbelievable what you guys are doing. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I speak also on our behalf?
Absolutely.
My name's Terry Ball. I'm a resident here in Baser. I know most of you city council members, and I want to thank you for entertaining this opportunity. I've known Gina for a little over 3 years. I'm a local realtor, and we team up with Gina annually for a fundraising event in Holyfield Winery with my business partner, Angie McCarty. Suicide awareness is very close and near and dear to her heart, as her mother had taken her life. And so this was a natural marriage for us as a partnership with Gina. And so we've used that money for scholarships. And as Gina said, it's time to take it to the next level. It's time to take Colton's passion for the trades, to ask for community involvement,
in making this happen. On a side note, as a realtor, you look at Basel and Basel's booming. We all know it, people are moving here, people wanna be here. The amenities are one key factor, that bring people to Basel. The small town feeling, the feeling of getting together with your neighbors to go into a park and see your neighbors. So the dog park is another component of bringing it together. The parks and trails, walking on the trails. It's a long-term vision. I know you all have. This helps connect that long-term vision with another amenity, another feather in the hat for this small town, Basel, that is on the edge of the city and continues to grow. So from a realtor standpoint, as I look at couples, families, individuals moving to the city, this amenity adds another reason for them to not only come live here, but to stay here. We have tremendous school systems. We have a tremendous family atmosphere of a small town, but yet the amenities of a large city. So I just wanted to express, one, my gratitude for you all to listen to this proposal. These two ladies have worked their tails off. Gina constantly, she's a little team, she came back from a cruise this week, a well-deserved cruise at that. But Gina works tirelessly for the foundation and to continue this, this trend towards, mental health awareness and, you know, identifying it early and creating an atmosphere, a family membership and a team membership around this. So I just wanted to say those brief comments, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you.
Yes, I got two questions, especially sure. I mean, he's been hitting on something that I'm thinking about. This is the proposal, but from a real estate perspective, did you look at other areas? And my second question is, are you aware of any dog parks that have been shut down for any reason?
I am not aware of any dog parks that have been shut down for any reason, and I'm a high user of dog parks. In relation to the real estate perspective too, a large portion of your population demographic cite having a community dog park is one of the #1 reasons they choose to live in a community, and that's your demographic that falls between 18 and 44. That's almost 2,200 people. And of course, you've got to do the percentage calculation for, 44.5% dog owners, 1.5, dogs per household. But it is an attractive amenity for people who are dog lovers.
So Mayor, the request from staff tonight is general consensus on whether or not you would like us to continue to move forward, particularly with surveying the surrounding community, that those property owners that abut the park in the proposed location. We felt like it was the right thing to do to get consensus from council before going out and knocking on doors and asking the community what they thought. So that would be a next step, and then also to continue to work with Gina and Michelle to pursue grant opportunities to hopefully have 100% of this project funded by external dollars. So that's the general consensus that we're requesting tonight. And this is a work session item, so this would not be eligible for a vote.
Does the staff have any further questions or concerns, things we should consider?
So I think thank you, Councilmember McEnroe, for that. We are so pleased that we have been able to really, I think, broaden our bandwidth to work on projects such as this by having a consultant with expertise. So this really is, from our perspective, Michelle really is kind of an extension of our staff. And so that's why we paired her on this project. So she's really kind of speaking to you from on staff's behalf as well. Wonderful. But this is something, we previously were working on with our animal control officer. As we recruit for that position, they will be heavily involved. The chief of police will be involved. But, before we get into, their proposal is very detailed, but before we get into that next step of actually getting the site plan rendered, we wanted to make sure, engage the temperature of our governing body on pursuing this endeavor. And we understand that it is a big commitment to an already existing park space, and I think it's just another example of this governing body's commitment to not just the new parts of Baser, but also our existing infrastructure of Baser. And as Michelle mentioned, we do have plans, and we actually received funding to redo the trail that exists in Baser City Park. And that project is under design, and it is funded in 2025. So.
Thank you. One more thing too, with that one grant that we identified, one of the really nice things about that one is it would not only fund compensating this budget, but the overflow can be used for other park projects in that same area. Maybe, you know, fix up the amphitheater or do some other things to improve that. That's kind of the way you read that as well.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And in fact, the more things you can pair with it, probably makes it even more competitive and attractive.
And we also wanted to hold off before we contacted some of the major corporations that we each have contacts with for approval, because we don't want to make those asks without knowing we have that approval to kind of make those asks.
So I need a consensus from council with how you guys feel.
They still need to go back to, this is the only area that you selected, there are no other areas.
This was the main area because it's a currently unprogrammed space, and that's what made it attractive. Another thing that made it attractive is it definitely needed some updates to it. And so that tends to be the biggest reason that area was selected to start with. Would you?
Yeah, agreed. We have many discussions about the proposed site location and its staff's recommendation that if this project were to move forward, that this would be the location. But that's just that, the recommendation.
I know that there are some areas south of 2440 that the city has, and there's nothing on. I've been talking to you about that offline.
Sure, that would be great.
And then there's always Baser Town Square. It's another area.
Thank you, Councilmember Fields.
In regards to your project,
Sure. I will support too.
Vernon?
Yes.
Vicky?
Absolutely.
Project.
Yeah. Project. And we're not voting on anything, it's just kind of, we gotta, so they can move forward.
I like the project, I'm just bringing up the question about the whole thing.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I need a
Mayor.
motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I'm so sorry, before you adjourn, I just, very quick housekeeping item. We do have governing body retreat planned for this Friday, and I have two questions for your consideration this evening. The first is your permission to use your electronic signatures to call that special meeting. Okay, so I think Kathy, we have a yes or affirmative from everyone that is here. Councilman Garber would not be here. And then you should have received a draft agenda of topics. And so just with like general consensus on whether those topics are agreeable to the body.
They are agreeable to me. I didn't know if we could move budget up, but Maddie said there's an order there, so.
At the end of the day, the agenda, any items can be moved around on that. You know, the request from us tonight is
If it
just.
works for you guys, I'll leave it to you. I know you've got the best plan.
The conversation, thank you, Councilmember McEnroe. The question was, why is the 2025 budget the last item? And the reason why staff proposed to put it in that location is because there are discussions earlier in the day that will significantly shape the vision of the budget. And so we'd like to have those conversations under our belt before we start to discuss the 25 budget. But again, Councilmember McEnroe, happy to move it however the council would like to.
Well, please understand, I'm not looking to leave. I'm just looking at us being fresh enough.
Yeah, I think historically, Thank you, just being on the council for a few years. It's as she mentions, every single topic through the various day, and it is a long day. Is builds up to where we dive into that budget hot and heavy. And then we have 3 more months of it. So this is.
Control your excitement about the 3 months, okay, I really want you to calm that down, and bring that down tonight.
I mean, it is exciting, but it is hard work. And we will be putting in hours, weeks, and months. So,
There's the enthusiasm, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn.
So.
second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have some freshness out there. Somebody wants to tour the new River Building, please, Brett.
And one thing, our hazardous household waste